At a railway station, 7th day of the 6th month, 26th of Meiji. Yesterday, a telegram from Fukuoka announced that a desperate criminal captured there would be brought for trial to Kumamoto today on the train due at noon. A Kumamoto policeman had gone to Fukuoka to take the prisoner in charge. 4 years ago, a strong thief entered some house by night in the Street of the Wrestlers, terrified and bound the inmates and carried away a number of valuable things. Tracked skillfully by the police, he was captured within 24 hours, even before he could dispose of his plunder. But as he was being taken to the police station, he burst his bonds, snatched the sword of his captor, killed him, and escaped. Nothing more was heard of him until last week. Then, a Kumamoto detective happening to visit the Fukuoka prison saw among the toilers a face that had been 4 years photographed upon his brain. "Who is that man?" he asked the guard. "A thief," was the reply, "registered here as Kusabe." The detective walked up to the prisoner and said, "Kusabe is not your name. Nomura Teiichi. You are needed in Kumamoto for murder." The felon confessed all. I went with a great throng of people to witness the arrival at the station. I expected to hear and see anger. I even feared possibilities of violence. The murdered officer had been much liked. His relatives would certainly be among the spectators, and a Kumamoto crowd is not very gentle. I also thought to find many police on duty. My anticipations were wrong. The train halted in the usual scene of hurry and noise, scurry and clatter of passengers wearing geta, screaming of boys wanting to sell Japanese newspapers and Kumamoto lemonade. Outside the barrier, we waited for nearly 5 minutes. Then, pushed through the wicket by a police sergeant, the prisoner appeared. A large, wild-looking man with head bowed down and arms fastened behind his back. Prisoner and guard both halted in front of the wicket, and the people pressed forward to see, but in silence. Then the officer called out, "Sugihara-san, Sugihara Okibi, is she present?" A slight, small woman standing near me with a child on her back answered, "Hi," and advanced through the press. This was the widow of the murdered man. The child she carried was his son. At a wave of the officer's hand, the crowd fell back so as to leave a clear space about the prisoner and his escort. In that space, the woman with the child stood facing the murderer. The hush was of death. Not to the woman at all, but to the child only did the officer then speak. He spoke low, but so clearly that I could catch every syllable. "Little one, this is the man who killed your father 4 years ago. You had not yet been born. You were in your mother's womb. That you have no father to love you now is the doing of this man. Look at him." Here the officer, putting a hand to the prisoner's chin, sternly forced him to lift his eyes. Look well at him, little boy. Do not be afraid. It is painful, but it is your duty. Look at him. Over the mother's shoulder, the boy gazed with eyes widely open, as in fear. Then he began to sob. Then tears came, but steadily and obediently he still looked straight into the cringing face. The crowd seemed to have stopped breathing. I saw the prisoner's features distort. I saw him suddenly dash himself down upon his knees despite his fetters and beat his face into the dust, crying out the while in a passion of hoarse remorse that made one's heart shake. Pardon, pardon, pardon me, little one. That I did, not for hate was it done, but in mad fear only, in my desire to escape. Very, very wicked I have been. Great, unspeakable wrong have I done you. But now for my sin, I go to die. I wish to die. I'm glad to die. Therefore, O little one, be pitiful. Forgive me. The child still cried silently. The officer raised the shaking criminal. The dumb crowd parted left and right to let them by. Then, quite suddenly, the whole multitude began to sob. And as the bronzed guardian passed, I saw what I had never seen before, what few men ever see, what I shall probably never see again, the tears of a Japanese policeman. The crowd ebbed and left me musing on the strange morality of the spectacle. Here was justice, unswerving yet compassionate, forcing knowledge of a crime by the pathetic witness of its simplest result. Here was desperate remorse, praying only for pardon before death. And here was a populace, perhaps the most dangerous in the empire when angered, comprehending all, touched by all, satisfied with the contrition and the shame, and filled not with wrath, but only with the great sorrow of the sin. Through simple, deep experience of the difficulties of life and the weaknesses of human nature. But the most significant, because the most oriental fact of the episode was that the appeal to remorse had been made through the criminal sense of fatherhood, that potential love of children, which is so large a part of the soul of every Japanese. There is a story that the most famous of all Japanese robbers, Ishikawa Goemon, once by night entering a house to kill and steal, was charmed by the smile of a baby which reached out hands to him, and that he remained playing with the creature until all chance of carrying out his purpose was lost. It is not hard to believe this story. Every year, the police records tell of compassion shown to children by professional criminals. Some months ago, a terrible murder case was reported in the local papers, the slaughter of a household by robbers. 7 persons had been literally hewn to pieces while asleep. But the police discovered a little boy, quite unharmed, crying alone in a pool of blood, and they found evidence unmistakable that the men who slew must have taken great care